Hello, welcome to World Talks. My name is Adam Jasser. Kazakhs delivered a strong endorsement to President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev in parliamentary elections at the weekend. Over 70% of eligible voters showed up, even though the vote itself was only partially free, given limits on opposition parties and independent candidates. I'm joined now in the studio by Daria Zielińska, an expert on Central Asia, Turkey and Caucasus at the Warsaw-based Center for Eastern Studies, to explain the significance of this election. Daria, welcome.
Good to see you.
So the president's party got 70% of the vote, more or less, on 74% turnout. What does it mean, this election?
So this election is not as crucial as the president would make it look out to be. What I would say is that, yes, the party associated with the president got over 70% of the vote, but the other parties that got into the new parliament are also pro-Kassym-Jomart Tokayev. There are no opposition parties eligible for voting. All of the parties were sort of in a race to praise Kassym-Jomart Tokayev more and more.
So personality cult.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. So what is the significance of the high turnout? Because, were people in any way coerced or encouraged to vote?
Well, what's interesting is when we look at the turnout, like specifically region-based, we see that in rural areas or in smaller cities, we see a very, very large turnout, over 90% even. In the bigger cities, especially in Almaty, which is the center of social and political life in Kazakhstan, the biggest city, the turnout was pretty low. It was about 40%.
That low?
Yeah. Compared to the nationwide turnout, it is very low.
What does it tell you?
That is the only way people can protest against the election being undemocratic. So in Almaty, there is a lot of people who care about democracy, care about the liveliness of the political life. And we've seen that even in March, when there was this referendum about the constitutional change going on. And the turnout in Almaty was 30%. That is very, very low compared to the rest of the country. A low turnout we've also seen in Astana, so the capital city. That is the only safe means of protesting the unjustness of this election.
So in fact, this reflects the fact that society is not united around Tokayev.
I would say no. I would also say the society is not that interested in political life. So despite the high turnout, what I've seen in Kazakhstan, I've been there, I came back yesterday, is that there was pretty much no campaign at all. The only posters you could see, especially in the cities, were posters of the winning party, the Ädiletparty, which is associated with Tokayev. The people were not very interested with the election, which is very surprising when we look at this from the European perspective, when ahead of the election you see posters everywhere, campaign everywhere. And there was pretty much none of that. The people, especially in less urbanized areas, were voting for Ädilet because they weren't really aware that there was much of a choice, considering that Ädilet was the only party being widely promoted. And what I would also say, and I would like to say this very carefully, in the past elections, and especially in the constitutional referendum in March, we have heard reports about international observers being asked to leave the voting places, and when they came back, they saw a lot of additional votes being added.
Strange stuff, right?
Strange stuff. So I would say that maybe the turnout was not as high as it is officially told to be.
Right. So, in a sense, that's highly surprising, given that, many research institutions qualify Kazakhstan as not really free and as a rather flawed democracy. It's 20%. Sort of bottom 20% of countries. But at the same time, it seems Tokayev is enjoying popular support, even if it's mostly in the countryside.
Well, yes, considering that he's pretty much the only option. He's a very charismatic politician. He promotes himself in a way that appeals to a lot of voters because he builds roads, he has a lot of populist policies. He's kind of positioning himself as a president of the people. Look, we're building railroads. Look, we're renovating this and that town. Definitely he does enjoy real support, but there's also no alternative. And considering that there is no media freedom, and this has gotten worse in the past months, no other candidates could turn out and show up and kind of show an alternative to Tokayev. That's what I would say.
Is this a managed democracy where, you know, this parliament does play some role in making policy choices, or is it all for show?
Well, I would say it does play some role, as long as it will not oppose Tokayev. So definitely, when it comes to new legislature, for example, the parliament will play a role. We are still waiting for the full results of the election, but I'm sure that there will be competent people like trying to do some reforms in the country, and I would say that they will play a role, but nothing they will change will not be in accordance with what Tokayev would like to see in the country.
Right. So he's really in control.
Yeah.
Overall, the bottom line is this vote boosting his domestic legitimacy?
Well, I don't think it's boosting it. I think it's not changing it. I think his domestic legitimacy is pretty much at the same point than it was before. It is boosting his international legitimacy, I would say, because he's kind of doing this show that, look, we're doing democracy in Kazakhstan. We've done this constitutional reform. We have a unicameral parliament right now.
And we have a high turnout.
We have a high turnout. The people are invested in political life. Mm-hmm. The legislature is going to be way faster than it was before. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of for show for the international society.
He's making another show for the international society. A few weeks back, he told Putin to his face to finish the war in Ukraine, which took many, including Putin, by surprise. What do you make of that?
Well, this is, on the other side, also a show for the international observers, but this is also proof of Kazakhstan being less reliant on Russia than it was before. So, let's say a few years ago, we could have never imagined Tokayev being like that opposed to Putin, like in a public space, to his face, that's true. This is an element of a wider policy, I would say, something that we've seen last year was Tokayev talking to Putin in Kazakh instead of Russian. So this is kind of a show that we are not as dependent on Russia as we were before. And we can also say that to Putin's face, because while Kazakhstan is still kind of reliant on Russia in certain aspects, Russia is also more and more reliant on Kazakhstan.
In what way?
Who has helped Russia during the oil crisis at the beginning of the summer? It was Kazakhstan. So when it was this giant oil crisis connected with the Ukrainian attacks, it was Kazakhstan who helped them. So right now, what we're seeing Tokayev say, not directly, but what he's trying to tell us is, we are partners, yes, but we are partners on equal grounds.
Right.
Russia cannot tell us what to do.
Is this a pattern across Central Asia for all former Soviet countries?
Well,
republics, actually.
It is a pattern, but Kazakhstan is way far ahead the other Central Asian countries. It's in a much more comfortable position than, for example, Kyrgyzstan or Tajikistan. So these are states which are highly reliant on money transfers from their citizens living in Russia, so they cannot antagonize Russia. They are way poorer. They do not have a strong hand here. Tokayev has a very strong hand. Kazakhstan has a very strong hand because they have oil, they have gas, they have uranium. They are a very resource-rich country. But yes, this is a pattern that we're seeing, that Russia is not the only dominant player in the region right now. So we are seeing all Central Asian states cooperating with one another, with China, but also with the European Union more and more, with the United States. So this is a pattern, but I feel like Kazakhstan is at first place.
So looking a few, and I appreciate you don't have your crystal ball with you, but is Russia losing its grip on Central Asia?
I would say yes, very slowly. It is a very complicated, very delicate process, but I would say yes. It's no longer, it cannot no longer rely on the backing of Central Asian states. They will not support Russia unconditionally, and they also see what they can gain from cooperating with other states, and especially cooperating with one another. So right now, the Central Asian states are getting closer to one another and therefore further from Russia.
Are they afraid of becoming too dependent on China? So trading one hegemon, if you will, for another?
Yes, this is a very real fear, especially in the economic sphere. So China is different from Russia because it does not seek to influence the Central Asian states politically that much. A little bit, especially when it comes to touchy issues such as the Uyghurs. But it does not try to influence politics as a whole, but it influences economy very, very much. And there is a real fear, for example, in Kazakhstan that, okay, we're going to become financially independent from Russia, but then China steps in. For example, the Kazakh high-tech AI industry is very, very reliant on China.
Right. Daria Zielińska, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching. This was World Talks, but stay with us for more news and analysis.